Think about it, in the same way that fan fiction in the 1960s expanded on the Star Trek universe rather than simply copying it, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings changed video game piracy for the better. Hi, I'm Dylan, and whether you like it or not, fan fiction changed everything. Well, that's not entirely true. The circumstances of technology, culture, and society that led to fanfiction becoming a thing in the 60s changed everything. If you want to learn more about the history of fanfiction, be sure to check out this other episode I did exploring the relationship between fanfiction and canon. But just briefly, the late 1960s saw the rise of fanfiction, specifically Star Trek fanfiction in fan magazines. This was incredibly important because it was one of the first times that mass amounts of people took upon themselves to create stories in a world of stories created by someone else. It was one of the first remixes. This type of piracy is way cooler than your regular garden variety piracy, because instead of just redistributing and copying illegal copies of Star Trek, they were making their own Star Trek, which is way more inspiring. That's not to say that regular piracy isn't inspiring. It totally is. It's a great way to measure how many people love something that you're making. HBO even uses piracy numbers to gauge the success of their shows like Game of Thrones, which continually breaks the most pirated show ever records every single year. They even brag that being the most pirated show on television is better than winning an Emmy. Since the dawn of video games, there have been pirated video games, bootleg games, unlicensed games, Warez, whatever you call them. They're around and continue to be, despite Microsoft's best DRM efforts, very popular. Outside of simply copying and stealing, there are three types of pirated video games. Let's call the first utility. These games are designed to serve a functional purpose. Don't have an SNES? Great, you can still play Super Mario World on NES. The NES or Famicom were particularly popular targets for piracy due to the fact that licenses for creating games for the system were very restrictive. And for a while, most bootleg games would be copies of games made available for systems they weren't intended to be on. You'll still see a ton of these today. Black Mesa is a fan-made HD remake of Half-Life 1, and people have recreated Pokemon in Minecraft. Speaking of Pokemon, have you ever played Pokemon on your iPhone or Zelda on your computer? These are pirated games that serve a functional utility. They allow you to play games that you maybe wouldn't be able to otherwise. They also to some extent serve the purpose of competition. Playing Pokemon on your iPhone makes total sense, but playing Doom on your iPod Nano doesn't. It's more of a braggy call for competition than an actual playable game. And yes, playing Counter-Strike on a TI-89 calculator totally takes the cake. Unless, like me, you're also from Toronto, in which case it's playing Pong on City Hall. This type of pirated video game, minus weird platforms, isn't usually very exciting. The second type of pirated video game, let's call that one The Trick, is where it gets fun. Have you ever wanted to play Mario, but instead of Mario, you're Batman? Of course, and since you don't know that this game doesn't actually exist, when you see it while you're walking through the market next to a totally real Gucci purse, you buy it, and at quite a deal might I add, and then you jam it into your NES only to find out that, oh, Batman is not in this game. I am stupid. The Trick, like the name suggests, is designed to trick you out of your money using marketing. More specifically, it's designed to prey on people that don't know that Kirk Douglas isn't in GTA San Andreas, even though he should be. Like all those amazing bootleg movie covers that feature characters from movies that are most certainly not in the same movie, bootleg video games have the same entrepreneurial spirit. And this is still happening today. I mean, who wouldn't want to play this amazing copy of GTA that features Mario and Sonic and SpongeBob SquarePants? They finally got all of my favorite characters in one awesome GTA game? No, they didn't. But the third category is where the gold lies. This category is basically fan fiction. We'll call it fan developed or fan dev. Right. One of the games that really kickstarted this whole fan dev movement was a text adventure game called Lord of the Rings in 1985, which was followed up by the Boggit in 1986. The game was designed by now author Fergus McNeil when he was in school, and as the name suggests, it is a straight up parody of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and their respective text adventure games. The first was based around the Lord of the Rings parody novel, which came out a few years before, but it wasn't its official game. Like all of the games in this third category, the Lord of the Rings and the Boggit were solely developed out of McNeil's love for the Lord of the Rings universe. This type of fan-loved game creation would begin to bleed into the gaming industry as a whole. One of the most famous is So Mari, which is Sonic the Hedgehog, but instead of Sonic, you're Mario, which is a dream come true. Pocket Monster has you play as Pikachu in the side-scrolling Pokemon adventure that you always wanted, not to mention the countless amount of other fan-created Pokemon games. There's Noah's Ark and Doom, a Titanic game, and countless Mario sequels, but possibly the most influential fan dev game is Kart Fighter. This is a pretty blatant Street Fighter ripoff featuring characters from the Mario universe, and while this is totally unconfirmed, I'd be incredibly surprised if this didn't inspire the Super Smash Bros. Series. Illuminati confirmed. What do you guys think? Do fan-made games have a greater impact on the gaming industry than we realize? And what are some awesome fan-made games that I didn't talk about in this video? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, be sure to click right on my face to subscribe, or at least think about it.